Effect to only do that. Yeah, I went up there and watched.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'd like to start our meetings this evening. Once again, as last week, we're going to start with the Municipal Building Authority meeting first. I chair that committee, so I will be conducting this first meeting, which involves some of our city council agenda as well before we move into the city council meeting. But we're glad to have you all here tonight. Appreciate your attendance. We enjoy having all of you here to give us input and all of the things that you're interested in that we have before us. We'd like to begin this evening with an invocation. And I didn't see, but is there anyone here from the Episcopal Church? Okay. I guess he didn't make it tonight. All right, then I will offer the invocation for us, and then Councilman Isom will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful this evening to meet together as City Council and staff and citizens of this great city of Cedar City. We're thankful for the blessings that we enjoy of living here, for the peace and happiness that we're able to enjoy, surrounded by the beautiful area that we live in our Red Mountains. We're grateful for the blessings of being able to make decisions and things that will benefit and help our community and plan for the future with the many things that we have before us, and look into the future of things that will be possibilities that are important to the quality of life for all of us here and all of our families as we raise them here. We ask you this night that thy Spirit might attend us as we discuss these items, and pray that we will be able to do so in a civilly manner and be able to express the views and respect the opinions of all involved. We ask a special blessing this night also upon those who keep our community safe, our police officers, our fire and medical people who render their services to keep us safe in this community in all we do. We thank you again for all that we do have, and we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Let's all join together and pledge allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda this evening is the agenda order approval. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda items here and the other one, unless do we have anything we want to move around? We're okay. So we'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Move to approve both agendas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move into the administration agenda, into mayor and council business. Let's begin with the mayor. Mayor, do you have anything you want to?
Yes, we have the January 2018 Sparkle Award to the Cedar Band Corporation, or Paiute Tribe. If they want to come up and receive this award, and also Chris and our sponsors from American First want to come up.
I promise you, we're going to get a better background behind you guys so you don't have a white screen behind you. It's coming.
Oh, jeez, what a chicken.
Congratulations, and thank you for everything you've done for our community.
Everybody get okay, there we go.
You're welcome to come up, Chris.
Okay.
Congratulations to you. Thanks for helping our community. Okay, anything else
Beyond
from the mayor?
that, remember there is no city council next week, where it's the 5th Wednesday. So,
Are you
I
done?
think the last 2 weeks have made up for it.
yes. But anyways, there was just
Okay.
that one. Okay.
All right. Okay. Council, do you have anything? Any of you?
I drove out to the Quitchpa recharge this morning, and we've got water right up to the weir. It's just about to start running down our ditch to the lazy river, and our city manager coined that term. Get your inner tube out, Paul. But, as it warms up, I think we're going to have a little more water out there, and we might have some recharge going out in that area. So it's exciting. The other thing I'd like to say, I just wanted, as I did last week, disclose that I have a family member that owns property in the student housing development district we're talking about tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, council? Okay, staff, any comments from staff? Danny?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm Danny Stewart, Economic Development Director for Cedar City and Iron County. Just wanted to report, as part of Governor Herbert's 25,000 Rural Jobs Initiative, the governor has invited representatives from each of the state's 25 rural counties to spend time with him in his office to talk about strategic planning, and also to collaborate with him and his office on moving forward with our strategic plans. I've given each of you a copy. This is a plan that we presented there last week. Myself and Brad Abrams from the Office of Economic Development, along with Mayor Wilson, Paul Bittman, Commissioners Blake and Adams, and also Paul Monroe from the Water Conservancy District, John Westwood, our state representative, Chris McCormick from the Chamber, and David Busk from the Department of Workforce Services were there for that presentation. We had very nice interaction with the governor, with his staff, and we're excited to move forward with this 25,000 jobs plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so far, our presentation packet has been better than every other county's. I got that text to me from some of the other county representatives. So good job, Danny.
Of course. Okay, anything else from staff? Okay. We'll move into the public agenda to public comments. At this point, if there's anybody that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda, this is the place for you to do that. And if it is an agenda item, we'll entertain those comments when we get to those items. So if you'd like to come forward and take a minute and say anything, you're welcome to come forward at this time.
Good evening, Tom Jett. See, it didn't have to be prompted this time.
I didn't know what to call you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Quite often, we see the jewels of this community, such as the roads being cleared and our police protecting us and our firemen, keeping us safe, and there's many unknown departments in the city that people just don't seem to really think about. Well, last Thursday, I had an opportunity to go to a meeting at the city library last Thursday evening at 7:30. And I haven't been in there, I hate to say this, for probably 5 years. And it's a gym. I came 30 minutes early. The books were organized. The place was clean. I decided to do a count just out of curiosity. This is 7:30 in the evening. There were 22 different people on the computer from young to old. There were 17 different people reading. That's 39 people that were in there. And that's not including the 5 of the, I'm not sure what you'd call them, but conference rooms, I guess is what we'd call them, that were occupied from various groups. And that says a lot. And so I just wanted council and the mayor to know that it's being utilized, and it's being taken care of by the leadership and the wonderful employees they have over there. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else like to address the council? Okay. We'll move into our business agenda then. First item is to approve the nomination of Councilman Scott Phillips as our MBA secretary.
I'm not going to miss a meeting again.
See what happens, huh?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't vote.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I didn't hear you.
You can abstain. if you
Happy to
want.
serve.
Happy to serve.
Happy to serve. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, I'll read through this again this week, is consideration and adoption of a resolution authorizing an annual renewable lease, a master resolution, security documents, and the issuance and sale by the authority of its municipal building authority of Cedar City, Iron County, Utah, lease revenue bond, Series 2018, to finance the cost of constructing an animal shelter and related facilities, calling of a public hearing to receive input with respect to the issuance of lease revenue bonds and any impact to the private sector from the construction of the facility to be funded by the bonds, and authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions completed.
So we had some questions during the week about the process, and the shelter update from the architect is that they think they'll have the plans finished or substantially complete around the middle of March. They believe they can have it bid out so we can commence construction first part of April. That would be
So
the
if we
timeline.
approve the bond to be issued, then will we still have the opportunity then to review the costs, all of that, to approve it? This isn't approving the project carte
This is-
blanche, right?
This is approving a funding mechanism for the project.
Okay.
If the council's interested, I know Mr. Cousins was interested in looking at the architect's product before it goes out for bid. If you're all interested, we can make it available to everybody. Some projects, folks are interested. Some projects, a restroom in the park facilities, get a lot of review on those. So if you're interested, we'll let you know when they're in, and you guys can come on in and
Okay,
Check.
thank you.
Is this,
We would-
just a question, is this going to include fencing, pavement, everything? Is this the whole package? Or is it just the building?
Well, I was busy getting the computer up. What was the question?
he wants, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, Kit. I just wondered, does this include pavement, fencing around the facility, everything? Is it all included in the estimate?
Tell me what project we're talking about.
The
Animal
animal
shelter.
shelter, sorry.
Oh, the animal shelter. I believe it does. I'm not totally sure it does, but I think it does include all the exterior improvements.
Thank you.
And I might say, Mayor has appointed me to be on the committee. There's also a serious sort of attempt to do some fundraising on behalf of this project. We're hoping the private sector will set up and help us with a great deal of this. So the bond is to help us get it underway and constructed, but we hope that private fundraising will also help with a great deal of this. Probably not all of it, but a great deal of it.
Sounds great.
Motion to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
We have to
Aye.
do roll call.
Oh, that's right,
Oh.
sorry. Roll call. Paul, let's start with you.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. We'll entertain another motion.
Motion to adjourn this meeting and move into our city council meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, the fun's about to start.
Keep believing, huh? Wait for it. Queued up.
We good? Okay, we will call our city council meeting for tonight, January 24th, 2018 to order. We will begin with our business agenda with the public portion first, the consent agenda. Item number 1, approval of minutes dated January 3rd and 10th, 2018. approve bills dated January 19, 2018, approve the airport master plan, approve an engineer's contract with the FAA for runway lighting in the amount of $23,000, approve a $100,000 grant awarded from the state of Utah from the Southern View for the Southern View Trail, approve the donation of self-contained breathing apparatus to local fire departments, and approve the Tour of Utah 2018 agreement.
Move to approve those items on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will now move to our action agenda. The item number 8, consider an adoption of a resolution authorizing. Why do we have to yeah, you got actually the longer one, so I don't feel quite as bad. Renewable lease, a master resolution, security documents, and the issuance and sale by its authority of the Municipal Building Authority of Cedar City, Iron County, Utah, lease revenue bond series 2018 to finance the cost and construction, constructing animal shelter and related facilities, and authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated. This is just the second portion of the MBA one.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 All right. Item number 9, consider resolution amending the provisions of the Cedar City General Land Use Plan.
So if I could just start on this a little bit. So over the past week, I've had city staff have had various questions about what the intent is that we're trying, or that the proposal is trying to do. So I just wanted to take a minute and make sure and try to explain this the best I can. So there are 2 propositions that the council may vote on tonight. The first one is a general land use amendment. This general land use amendment is a tool that the city uses to forecast how we propose the city develop in the future. There's nothing binding about this. It doesn't determine how a person uses their land. It's merely a vision of what the city uses to progress in the future. So that's the general land use amendment. Now, the proposal is that we add an addition to this general land use, which is called the SUU Student Housing District. And we looked at those boundaries last week. You know where that proposal is. If that were to pass, no one's property rights changes. It is merely just a projection of where we see student housing growing in the future. Obviously, that depends on the market. It depends on SUU. It depends on the cost of construction. There are so many factors that would come into play with that general plan. But that, I just want to make sure that's clear. Then the second tool the city has is zoning. Now, the zoning map and the general plan map, they don't fit together like this. It's not just that simple. One doesn't match the other. The zoning plan, the zoning map, the zoning tool has various subtools in it. So if your property is zoned R1, there's a definition of what people can do in an R1 zone. That limits your property. Someone in an R1 zone can't decide to manufacture dog food in their backyard, right? It's for single housing only. So that's just one sample of a zone. The city is, one of the proposals is the student housing district zone. And with that zone, as we talked about last week, it said what you could build in that zone. So the only way a zone applies to someone's property is if the property owner themselves ask that their property be rezoned. So if this were to pass tonight, that zone would only be on paper. It wouldn't exist anywhere in the city. If a property owner came to the city and wanted to use this zoning tool, they could only use it where the general plan forecasts that they can use it. So that's how we got to this point. Now, going forward, if a property owner, say your neighbor, wanted to use this, he lived in this general land use plan in this district area, and he decided he wanted to use this zone, then there are some notice requirements that kick in. Everyone within 300 feet of the boundary of that property would have to be personally served a letter or receive certified mailing of their proposal and when the public hearings are going to happen. I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear that whatever happens tonight, nothing is going to happen with your property as long as you own it. Now, one other distinction I want to make sure we're clear on. Kid, if you could pull up that. I wanted to make sure, so this is the zoning map. We can see the R3M. I want to make sure everyone understands the difference right now of what can happen in the R3M opposed to what could happen if the student housing district zone were to pass. So let me pull up that table.
We'll get to the map in a minute.
So right now, this is just, I just put a table together just showing the difference between the proposed SHD zone and what the R3M zone currently allows. So when you look at the permitted uses, Kid, if you could just scroll down there, the permitted uses are the exact same. There's no difference between what currently can be done there and what's proposed. So if someone wants to buy property there and build a single home, they can do it. If they want to build a duplex, they could do it. If they want to put in an apartment complex, they can do that. So that's just a permitted use right now. So next down, we have the minimum lot area. So in the proposed new zone, there'd be no minimum lot area. What exists currently in that zone is for a 2-unit building, you have to have a minimum of 9,000 square feet. And then for every unit you add to that, you have to add an additional 1,500 square feet. So it really depends on the size of the property and what you want to build. But that's the limiting factor there. For the minimum lot width, the proposed SHD zone, there is no minimum width. Currently what exists is a 55-foot width in the R3M zone. Minimum setbacks, both for the side and the rear, they're going to be governed by building and fire codes. And the front is 15 feet. What it currently exists in that area, the side setback is 6 feet. You got to have a total on both sides of at least 16, but one side has to be at least a minimum 6 feet. The rear is 20, and then your front is 25 feet. Maximum height, the proposal is to allow buildings at 50 feet. Currently, what is allowed is 35 feet. For the maximum size of the building, they're both the exact same. They're governed by building codes and fire codes. And then lastly, the difference in parking, currently 0.85 is allowed for a single occupancy bedroom, and the proposal is reducing that to 0.7. My hope is that at least kind of helps out those that may have some questions on those distinctions going forward.
Can you flip back to the map? So here's the map you all saw just a minute ago. Council came to staff yesterday and said maybe we should look at doing the land use amendment and reducing the size of the area in which we would do the land use amendment. So it took out all the R1 and all the R2 that it's already existing. So that's this proposal. Up here it says revision 1. It's another proposal. The council can vote on plan A, plan B, neither. It's up to them at this point. But that is another proposal we've submitted.
Okay. We'll start with, does the council have any questions related to, that was a really good spiel, Tyler. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yes,
wow.
thank you for that.
So does the council have any questions?
My only question would be that going down that list that Tyler so well put together is there are so few differences. I come back to my initial question, and I don't think it's any secret to my fellow colleagues here at the table where I stand on the issue. Why are we creating this special zone? It's a height different, it's less setbacks, but it's reduced parking. So my question is there a need for this district at all? And if so, why?
Who wants to?
So I guess the answer to the question why would be up to council, right? That's not, staff didn't bring this forward saying this is what we want. There was some movement in the community that would like some additional tools to be able to develop more dense student housing near SUU. Staff got together and felt that the proposal that we put together would benefit hopefully all parties. It would be a compromise for all parties. I know all parties don't feel that way. We've had to say no to all three parties involved to some degree or another. So I guess the question why is what you're deciding tonight.
Yes, but that was brought to some.
I guess what
citizens
let
brought
me
it
maybe
before.
provide some clarification there. That I'm sorry. I have not had, I've not heard adequate factual information of why it is necessary. That is why I'm still not in favor of making this decision, because I haven't seen enough evidence to know why it is necessary, why the current 3M that we have in this district and all of its requirements do not satisfy the needs. I recently heard, just as of tonight, presentations today at the Utah State Legislature by two of the fastest growing universities in the state and their need for more growth. They happen to be Dixie State University and Weber State University. It was not Southern Utah University. So I just, I need some convincing, I guess, for me to feel comfortable in moving this forward, because the general land use, as I understand it, and I believe I understand the distinctions, is it will open the door for us to allow it much easier for these kinds of things to happen. And that's where I'm uncomfortable.
This is for your guys' benefit.
Oh, that's the comparison. I will just tell you how, in my own mind,
Tyler's, thanks.
I've
You can see
I've
the
arrived at a
difference.
point where I think this is necessary.
Okay.
And just respond from that perspective. SUU is key to our community and is central to our economic vitality, and its success and growth are important to our community. And growth is coming. And I think what this does is allow us to get out in front of that growth and to provide an environment that will help fill a need for housing and accommodate that growth, rather than to have to just react to it. It puts us out in front of it, allowing us to look at opportunities for development and actually encouraging that development so that we can accommodate that growth. I've been involved in this process from the very beginning. This is my 7th meeting with respect thereto. And in the very first meeting, a proposal was made that I couldn't accept, because there had not been a process of vetting, for lack of a better term. And so I, sitting in that chair on the Planning Commission, asked that we table it and take the time that we have now taken in due course to review it and allow staff to review it and to look at it. And I've watched the process of all parties getting together, and I appreciate all of these folks who have been here and shared their concerns. And I've just personally concluded that it would be better for our forward thinking, for the direction of the community, to have a planned area, keep the parking in the housing developments rather than somewhere else in the community. I think it, in fact, improves parking prospects around the city, around the university pretty significantly. I think that if we have well-designed apartments with all of the fire safety that's being proposed, that's a safer thing for our students and for the community. I worry about places in this area that have been family homes, a 4-bedroom house with 8 students in it and 8 cars and only places for 2 to park in that. And so I just, I think it's much more parking friendly. I think it's much more safety minded. And I've just watched the process, and I think that staff has done an incredible job of evaluating this and putting the overlay into a future plan. And I'm just one that wants to get out in front of.
And I can appreciate that, Councilman. I guess what I'm trying to understand is how can reducing parking help parking?
Having parking. It's not a matter of reducing parking. In fact, we've gained something. It used to be that for two people in a room, we were at 1.3 parking spaces for that room.
Mm-hmm.
This is 0.7, doubled is 1.4. I've actually gained parking if you look at it with those.
But we're not building double occupancy; we're building single occupancy.
I understand that.
Because
when you
alluded
look
by
at
the
it per
alluded by
head
the
count,
contractors, yeah.
Yeah, when you look at it per head count, and there I'm placing complete reliance on staff again. I've had my conversations with the police, with the fire chief.
Mhm.
I've had my conversations with our city engineer, who's done all of his work. We have an incredible staff that's helping to run this community of ours, and I place great trust in what they have come up with.
Maybe just to comment on that, on the room size. So what they've done lately is they've required the room size to be only 100 square feet. So you cannot get more than 2 students in a room. You can only fit 1 student in a room. So really so if you took out a wall between the 2 beds, it may be a 200 square foot room. So the only difference between the 1.3 and the other is a wall between those 2 students. So
Craig Ison.
Craig, it's been a long day.
You're a good colleague here.
Between, you're actually gaining parking because the only difference is you have a wall between them and you don't. And that's what we have. A lot of the apartments in town have the 1.3, which is the 0.65. So we're actually gaining.
This proposal, just to be clear, does away with the bedroom size requirements. With our 0.85 one that we did last time, that's where we specified how big the bedrooms can be.
Correct.
This one doesn't have any.
Because it goes by occupant, right?
It does
That's
that.
our
So
bad.
we did away with that stuff.
Well, and I guess it's only fair that I have to acknowledge, because I recognize the tremendous work that staff has done, and also many of the residents in this room have done in studying codes that they never knew they were going to study in their lives. But I also think there's an aesthetic and there's a place of community, and I want to make sure that we don't lose that, because if you look at our community, and this is not to offend anyone who lives outside of this parameter, please understand. But if you look at the freeway from approximately 200 north to 400 south, and let's say over to 100 or 200 east, it is the heart of our community. This is where the community began. This is where the university began. This is where the pioneers built their homes. This is where our main street is. And I want to make sure that we protect and we care about the aesthetics and the standards of that community. I don't want Cedar City to be average. And someone, I think, emailed us, every one of us today, to that effect. We need to be above that. We're better than that. So I just want to make sure, and I have concerns about that. And that's why I have to express those concerns now.
Okay.
Enough said.
All right. Are there other comments, questions from the council?
I just want to say that I echo like what Craig has said. I appreciate what staff has done. You guys have worked very hard on getting the information, getting the studies done and whatnot. So thank you.
Likewise.
All right, from here,
So I am going to move that we approve the resolution amending the provisions of the city general land use plan for the area that is shown as redefined by
As
revision 1.
Do you also, in your motion, do you want to have the portion along 200? It's a blue box up on the screen.
Oh, thank you.
That one's it's suggested that one goes to mixed use.
I think I missed that the last time I had an
Okay.
opportunity.
Is that
I think
part of your
I learned.
motion?
That is part of my motion to recognize, and that goes to
mixed
mixed
use.
use,
So that goes from highway service
to
to mixed use.
mixed use. Yep, that is included in my motion.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Question on the motion?
yes.
I just want clarification that in doing this, that it allows us to continue to work on the SHD, which we'll move into the next part of the
Yeah,
meeting
no,
as the ordinance itself.
you're absolutely right on that.
Yes. We had a public hearing last week. We have this motion on the table. It's been seconded. They have to vote on it. Then on our next one, we'll get to the actual ordinance, which would create this zone. This is just the general land use overlay. Well, the changing of the general land use plan.
So the zone calls for high density housing. The general land use plan calls for high density housing. Our current zoning tools allow for high density housing in the form of R3. If the council decides to never adopt an SHD zone, R3 can be developed throughout this whole area. It's already zoned that way, so there would be absolutely no further public process. It would just be pulling a building permit and getting started. If they choose to create an SHD zone, that would create an alternative tool which developers or property owners could use to develop their property within this area.
Okay, so we have motion second. We will start with Councilwoman Hartley.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that one passes. We will move on to item number 10. Consider an ordinance creating the SUU Housing District Zone, the SHD zone.
Well, it's me again. Let me give a little Shakespeare to all of you. Now is the winter of my discontent. I have much discontent about the current proposed SHD district. You've heard it all before, so there's no sense repeating all of that I have, but the way the ordinance is currently written, and I'll just point out a few things that concern me. It talks about this area is typified by wide, well-lit streets. A lot of these streets are not wide, and many of them are not well-lit. That's something I have great concern about, but that's going to be the next 4 years working on that. I think this ordinance to me is all about parking. And I have real concerns, and I cannot support this ordinance unless there's some addressing this parking issue. Period.
Scott, do you mean the number, the 0.7?
Yes,
or
yes, ma'am. The 0.70. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm in the same boat on that as far as the zone. The parking is where it's at. I'm not in agreement for 0.7.
Well, and my stance on it, one of the things through the process when we were having our meetings, there was another piece that was an enforcement piece that I had requested be part of it. And so I'm uncomfortable with it, how it's written. We've got another through the process, let me back up a little bit. We identified there were really two parking issues. We looked at the student housing and whether that was causing an issue, and we've done a lot of studies. Kit has gone around in the middle of the night, counted cars, coming up with the numbers and whatnot. That was one issue as far as, is the student housing at apartment buildings contributing to our street parking issue? And then we had another issue that the kids coming to school, parking in front of people's homes, and also these single family residents that are renting to 8 to 10 students with only 2 parking spots, on site. And so since we didn't dream this all up, we had the requests from the university and the builders and whatnot, put this together and come to us. So we tackled that piece first. And we had many meetings. We talked about an enforcement piece. If that 0.7 was really the number that we were going to come in at, then I was pretty adamant that we have an enforcement piece built into it. And our city attorney has been working diligently on that, creating a new revision to our rental ordinances or rules, whatever you call it. Is it part of an ordinance?
Yeah, it's just the rental business license.
Right. And what that has in there is some requiring people to have the business licenses, certifying how many parking spots they're needing for their residences according to what zone. And that's citywide, so it wasn't incorporated into this student housing zone. And that is set to be on our agenda in 2 weeks. And so I'm not in favor of approving that without that extra piece that we can say, okay, if that's how many students you believe is going to park at your apartment building, then that's how many that you're going to rent to. You have 100 spots, you're going to have 70 residents with cars. And so I personally am not in favor I'm in favor of everything. My parking number was at a minimum of 0.75 when we had the discussions. So I'm still kind of on the fence on the number. But I don't know if anyone has more comments along that, or if we're ready for a motion, but I'm not ready to vote on it. So I don't know how the others feel
Well,
about that.
And I acknowledge what staff continues to do. Parking has been a huge discussion point. In each of the 7 meetings where I've attended, we've had this discussion. And there are two parts to that parking problem. There are people that are coming into town and just taking up a spot on city streets in front of homes rather than using parking on campus. And there are ways with permit parking and parking enforcement that we can deal with that. And I know that staff is committed to do that. And I don't know. I trust them more than you do, apparently.
No, I trust them, but I don't know how my 4 counterparts will vote.
No, I
So
don't know how where you'll go with that.
we're all human.
But there's another point that I would make with respect to the parking. If we set it at 0.7, I think that it has to become something that we regularly review. The result of the parking study was that 0.65 parking spaces plus a 0.05 for visitors and snow removal and other things, making provision for that. That's how the 0.7 was arrived at. But I don't know that number to be the number any better than anybody in the room, despite all that people have said about their knowledge of this. We have someone who has applied scientific principles and done a study and thinks that 0.7 is okay, as does the fire chief and others. Now, let's suppose that a few apartment buildings get built with a 0.7 spaces per person in the apartment. A year from now, I will be very, very intrigued to see that point 0.7 works, and that through enforcement, those people who rent those apartments are holding people to being in the lot. Like you said, 100 people that are renters and 70 cars. I guess I want to be able to revisit this like we might I don't know,
Sunset clause.
or an impact fee or
Okay.
something like that. We look at those very regularly. And I think that this is something that has to be monitored and managed as we go forward. So even if we went with the ordinance as outlined, I want to build into it some ability to look back and revisit this. I just, once again, it's not a pure science, and I just would like to be able to look back. That's just.
The other comment I was going to make is on the second piece of it, that what we'll want to do is get the residents that live in that area, maybe some representatives from neighborhoods or whatever, to work with us to brainstorm some ideas. This isn't solving all of the parking issues. This is one little piece of it that we need to continue to work on. The other things, as we listen to you and the things that you were complaining about, I think the majority of it was coming in from students parking on the street while they're attending class, and also with those single family homes in the neighborhoods. And so we're going to work really hard in the next month to try and get some things put together to continue this until we kind of get a handle on this parking issue. SUU is working hard on it. They're brainstorming with us, trying to come up with some ideas how to keep their students in the parking lots. I see Dorian laughing because it's human behavior. I'm not sure how you cure that, but maybe we can find some kind of incentive.
I think that's why I'm opposed at the moment to the way it's written is, we had some extensive discussion on this. I mean, extensive discussion. When we first created an SUU building zone about 4 years ago, or I don't remember exactly, somewhere in there. But we went to the 0.85 reduced parking at that time. That is working with those who have built under that ordinance. And that's particularly some of the buildings I've monitored. There's one big exception to the rule, and I know you'll argue at the location, but to me it's close enough, listening to the university's discussion, that they feel students can park by the stadium. A building just on the other side was changed to a 0.75 by the Board of Adjustments about 8 years ago. That building is a train wreck. You can't get anything in there, and the fire department will back me up on it. They had a hard time getting a fire put out in there because of the parking. I know that building very well. I know that 96% of the students living there have automobiles. So I'd be comfortable with reducing it or leaving it at 0.85. And as Terry has mentioned, I might consider a little less, but my stomach's having a hard time. I can't even stomach 0.7 or 0.65. Is just doesn't feel right to me. So I just want to express that, and that's why we felt like this might be an angle to go, since we want to put this enforcement piece in place with it, which I think will help. So that we have a way to monitor what's in there. And if we come back later and, they're in violation, then we have a tool to make them change their ways. And so that's probably the reason I'm not excited about moving it forward tonight. But, in a couple of weeks, which also, as Terry mentioned, does open it up again. We would love to hear some more input now that you've seen some of the new ideas that you have not seen in the past, and the enforcement tool, which I don't know if anybody out there's seen that at all yet. And it'll be unveiled in 2 weeks, which is in that application, as Terry mentioned. That way it would give, and we'd encourage you to get a representative, from an area or neighborhood that's affected that could so we could meet on a smaller scale, with, I'm talking developers, representatives, representative of the university, representative staff, councilman, if you want one. That wouldn't even need to be in the mix. You can give us the information from staff and the meeting, but sit down at the table and discuss specifically what we're talking here, and not another 4-hour meeting of ideas and emotions. I don't think that accomplishes anything. I think we have to get down to the facts and bring all those together and then try and come up with the best decision we can. And has been mentioned time and time again, and I've seen over my 8 years, not everybody's going to walk out of the room happy. It's just almost impossible to do. But we try our best to do that, and it does happen on occasion. And then I wonder what we did wrong, if both sides agree. But anyway, just maybe to elaborate a little bit where I was on that stand for tonight.
I'd like to just say a couple things. So I remember, how many years ago we did the 8.5? Was it 2 years ago?
Only 2, I guess.
So,
2.
2 years, that's right. So, and I remember, and I use Gateway North because it's one that I'm familiar with. So it's got 140 beds, and to get the required parking at the 0.85, I remember the debate and how people were worried about even the 0.85, and how they were worried that be parking on the streets in the front of the mortuary, and they'd have problems with the funeral services. They were worried about, parking in the mortuary parking lot. And as we've seen this over the last 2 years, and I know some private studies have been done. There's cameras in those parking lots can verify the data. And I know Kit's done 2 studies over there. One was at 0.59, and then there was at 0.66. But the parking on the street hasn't happened. The parking in the mortuary hasn't happened. And even the parking lot that they were required to buy the property across the street by Gateway East to form another overflow parking lot, which was, Brent, what was that? Was it 19? 28? So for 28 spots, if you drive by there at any day or night, that's parking lot's relatively empty. There might be one car in there once in a while. And then if you drive in the Gateway North parking lot, there's also a lot of empty parking spots there. So those studies, and I appreciate Mr. McRae, he did a study as well. I think he's an engineer, and he did a study that confirmed what Kit has done several times, of the 0.7 is adequate for the larger high density. And so I trust those numbers. I trust our staff and what they've done and the work they've done, and the numbers. And I agree with Councilwoman Hartley I like the enforcement clause, and I think we ought to wait and get that finished and vote on, and combine the two and vote on those together. So that we have some backup, so that it alleviates those fears, because we've had 2 years with some of these projects to see that they did work, but that gives us a fallback position, the enforcement, that we know that we can have some teeth and something to enforce it with.
So with all of this, it sounds like you want to table this for 2 weeks.
Well,
let's
Until our next city
hear a motion
council.
of what we got in front of us.
I mean, that's just kind of gathering
no, I think that's,
from 3 or 4.
There has been a request since we have a 5th Wednesday and we don't have a meeting, about the possibility of having a work and a special action meeting that night to approve them. And I don't know if
all you have to do is look at the mayor right now. And you'll
for
understand
the mayor's sake,
how untenable that is.
For the mayor's sake, she won't be here.
she won't be here, so she
She's not
doesn't
here.
care. She's like, yeah, do whatever you want.
So if that's what the council would like, staff can accommodate that request. request.
There's no problem with the notices and whatnot for change of an ordinance or anything. So, okay.
So we could see your enforcement piece a week earlier.
Yeah, so
And-
if I'm understanding this, you're wanting to table the SHD zone for an action meeting on February 7th. And on the February 7th date, you're wanting during
The 30th, we're talking the 30th of January, the 5th
So
Wednesday.
you-
No, we were talking
No,
about
that's not 2
February.
weeks.
Oh, were
2
you?
weeks.
So February 4th?
Yeah, on our regular work
7th.
meeting, we would have a work
7th,
meeting,
February
review
7th.
the enforcement
Is it
piece,
7th or 4th?
and
Yeah,
then
it's
have
the
a special
7th.
action meeting
think so.
afterwards
Think
that
so.
we could approve that,
and the action,
both of them together.
special action
Stuck on the
meeting would
forward.
contain both the zone and the parking.
Yes.
Yeah, it's February 7th is the
February,
next city council
yeah.
meeting.
Rather than next week.
I think somebody should move that.
So
I'll make that motion that we
Okay.
table it till February 6th,
7th.
7th, sorry. And then also to have a special action meeting on the, let me look,
On the
housing
ordinance?
district zone and the apartment
Be the rental
application rental business license
Dwelling.
agreement
Yeah,
Yeah.
on those two items for action.
I'll second that.
Question on the motion?
Yes.
So what is the intent that we accomplish in the 14 days and how do we go about it?
I think there are some of the residents and builders that would like to have a joint, more, not like a public input, but information. But I'm wondering, Tyler gave such a good explanation tonight, explaining it. If we go right into some of the meetings, I mean, I'm not.
I just
I'm
want to
not
make sure that
what-
between now
Yeah.
and February the 7th, that we address some of the concerns that we all still have with the issue.
Right.
So then it can be shared with the citizens and with ourselves.
Yeah.
So we come to a mutual understanding. I'm just trying to get clarity. That's all.
So if a group of citizens would like to get together, find a time when they want to meet, they could contact my office, set an appointment, and we'll try our best to accommodate them. I mean, if the group's 50 people, my office doesn't fit 50 people, right? If this was open, then we jump in here. I'll do my best to accommodate those who would like to meet with me.
Tyler, I'd just like to say something on the parking. I think we've established it's two different issues, and and I've heard people live around the university, and I understand their concerns, but the streets, the challenge, I think we're talking about enforcement with parking on housing and apartments. If you start going down the road of permit parking and those kind of things, there's some unintended consequences that can be rough, because you can do all that and go through all that, but it's kind of like the sign ordinance. I've never wanted to touch the sign ordinance as long as I've been on the council, because you can go to a sign ordinance and say no off-site advertising whatsoever. But then what about your neighbor who wants to have a yard sale and they put out a few signs and they respectfully pick them up? They'd be breaking the law. I have a problem with giving them a ticket to put up a yard sale sign, right? I mean, it's just, and so with parking, we do this, let's say we go all the way down full force, and you do permit parking around the university, and say your grandmother comes over for Sunday dinner and she doesn't have a parking pass, she's going to get a ticket. Say your friend comes over to watch the Super Bowl with you and parks there, he's going to get a ticket. And so that's what worries me about going too far with this. I hope that we, with the parking enforcement ordinance that we're looking at, that it stays strictly to the parking with residences, whether it's a home that's being rented to students or apartment buildings. I hope that's what we do.
Well, and I would also say that this might be one of those wonderful rare occasions with Councilman Cousins, and I absolutely agree. Public streets are public streets.
We'll mark this
And
moment.
as far as I am concerned, as long as people are abiding by the law and parking in the proper places on those streets, they have every right to park there. Now, if they're in your driveway or my driveway, that's a different matter. But if I am visiting and I want to park in front of 265 South, 200 West. I think that's Janet McCrae's address. I have every right to park there. So I just want to make sure that's very clear, because you're absolutely correct. There are two
Would you
separate
like
issues.
a picture of us after the meeting?
Yeah, that was like the weirdest thing. It's almost like
And a
deja vu.
little
The
kumbaya.
current one that has been done deals with the dwelling and housing
Throughout the city.
throughout the entire city. So rental housing throughout the entire city. It's not talking about public.
So my original question was just to
streets.
make sure that between now and February the 7th, we have action that we deal with to address the concerns
So-
of the ordinance. So on February the 7th, we can deal with it once
What-
and for all.
What if I make a suggestion? This room is open next Wednesday. We all wanted to take a Wednesday off, but,
You can't all get together without publishing
oh,
it.
without
Yeah.
public. Well, we
Have a
wouldn't,
meeting.
we wouldn't
But
all
just,
be here then. We'd decide if we want council
Yeah,
rep.
We would,
It would just be, it
Oh,
would be
yeah.
Tyler.
Just be
You'd get
Tyler.
Tyler.
and we might rotate
I-
in one at a time.
I mean, just a suggestion. I mean, it's
mean,
a place to meet and
you
we
can-
could set
we
a
could-
time.
Publish just a thing saying that you were going to have a unofficial whatever. But so there was the motion and the second to table it. Can all in favor of that?
Aye.
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 Was that everyone?
Aye.
Okay.
Wow.
And your items between now and then are dealing with the the enforcement part
Mhm.
and the parking
Parking?
part.
Reconciling.
I don't really know what more staff can give the council as far as parking goes.
Yeah.
Whether it's
No, the only-
0.75 or 0.85 or 0.7 or point whatever.
We just need
I
to
don't,
just
I
need
don't
to
know how much more
decide.
information we can give you.
No, I don't think staff can. I think that's for us to reconcile
Yeah.
amongst ourselves. But I
Yeah.
think there can be clarification on the enforcement part for the public and for anyone else interested.
Sure. And on the 7th as well, we'll present to the council information about the existing ordinances we have for permit parking only. We'll talk more about some of the issues Mr. Cousins brought up about grandma getting a ticket for Sunday dinner, and
Mhm.
we can make that presentation as well.
And this way gives them a chance to speak after seeing new information that they have not seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
So-
I have one last question. Am I still invited to the Iron County Home Builders Luncheon tomorrow?
No.
I just want to make sure.
Okay, so right now, this was tabled till the 7th, so we will move on. Item number 11. Bob, do you still, we still good with that? Moving that one. So we're gonna remove item number 7, or item number 11, because it's already zoned and they just want this to talk about item number 12, which would get the land use to conform with the zoning. So item number 12 is, but we had a little part wrong in the agenda. So let me read this. Consider an ordinance changing the zone from R-2-2 to central commercial per the general plan on property located at 1060 South Main Street.
So the reason why we're striking number 11 is because the general plan already calls for that. So we don't need to amend it.
Okay.
That's why we're striking.
Oh, okay.
So
Is that clear to everyone in the house?
So
Say, would
So
you
it's that-
maybe
it's that
explain?
funny looking piece.
Yeah,
do you
so
want
They
to
changed the line.
Yeah, go
In
through
the
the
red.
explanation.
the general plan already calls for this property that we're talking about here. The pinkish reddish color is central commercial. That's what the general plan is calling for.
A lot of problems because it moves.
Yep.
No.
It'll help.
Okay, so the piece
That
of
was done
property
last
we're
week.
talking about follows this all the way up there and down. Currently, the general plan has this piece of property in 3 separate visions. The first vision right here is R2, which matches the surrounding community, same color. The second piece of property is calling for highway service. And this piece is calling for central commercial. What the developer wants to do is he wants to change the zone. The zone of this property doesn't match the general plan. Remember, those 2 plans don't always fit. the general developer is wanting to change this entire piece of property, to change the zone to match what the general plan says. So this would be zoned R2, just like the surrounding. This would be zoned highway service, and this piece up here would be zoned central commercial. Am I correct on that, Mr. Platt?
Why doesn't that line go over to the cul-de-sac?
Doesn't it include this?
What?
Yeah, doesn't it include the lot
Yeah, what's-
next door?
Sorry, yeah.
Has that not been drawn right?
Yeah.
I apologize.
needs to-
It goes to that line enough.
Right, that's.
So the
okay.
red box, or red whatever.
Our red
shape
box
that
is
Yeah.
wrong.
It needs to go to the right to the cul-de-sac line.
There,
Is that good, Bob? Yeah, we
You
need
come-
to,
yeah,
we need to hear
it's-
from you guys.
You've changed.
Hey, Bob Platt.
Hey, thanks.
So we've got these two pieces of property, that piece of property and that piece of property. Okay? Actually, that's two pieces. There's three pieces, that and this one. Okay? The general plan shows this part being central commercial. This I'm a little bit what that brown is, but that has is this a general plan, Kit?
yeah, that's general plan.
Okay, so the highway service, highway and regional commercial is this, like that, and this stays. So the request is to zone the property in conformance with the general plan. It's not a request to amend the general plan.
But now it's just the portion that's within the red.
Well, no, it's.
Or is it
Disregard the red
whole thing?
box.
Huh?
The red
Ignore
box
red
is
box.
no
Disregard
good.
Red
that.
box
Just
is
get rid of
not.
the red box.
In other words, this is regional commercial right there. So the request is to zone it in conformance with the general plan.
So it's changing it.
We've got the property owner wanting
Yeah.
to.
You know,
Will you
Yes.
state your name?
yeah, I'm Grant Carter.
Thanks.
So this is on central commercial, and in fact, I think this is as well. But this is highway commercial here, and I would just like it all to be central commercial.
So,
but not
okay, so
down
say
below.
that again. So it's highway commercial. What's the difference between highway
Highway
commercial and central commercial?
Highway service.
Highway
Oh, okay,
service.
you said
That's what
commercial.
I
Okay,
meant.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, my mistake.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Highway service.
I know, exactly. It's a different way.
Sure.
It's what?
Not a
So-
huge difference
As far as I can tell
You need
on,
So just if I could,
because it infringes
what you're
on-
presenting is different than what
No.
Mr.
Yeah,
Platt told
Slightly,
me.
yes.
So we need to amend the general plan, which means we need to go back to number 11.
why do we have to amend the general plan? If this is already commercial, or this is already regional or already highway service.
It's not already.
It's not.
It's not?
Problem.
Oh, I thought it already was. Okay. Yeah,
So,
this is R2, but the general plan shows this as regional commercial or regional.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
service.
actually, yeah, the general plan shows a regional
My
commercial, but we
mistake.
do not have a regional commercial zone, so we've
Yeah, the-
always defaulted to a central commercial zone.
so what is the
That-
difference between what it is now to what you want to change it? What is the difference between what can be land can be used for according to that zone change?
Well, it can be all used for central commercial zone because we've defaulted the regional commercial zone to central commercial zone because we do not have a regional commercial
So
zone.
is it really changing it that much?
Yeah, because
It
it's,
would be
I think
going
it's actually
from-
zoned R2. This is the
Up
master
to the,
plan.
I'm just
That's correct.
confused because of the
So it would be
lines.
going from R2.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is being proposed for change
Is right where the red
everything
is, only
all the way
further to
over.
the right.
Yep.
Is it all of the property that they want to change? Or
No,
is it
No.
just the,
So this whole piece is I guess currently R2. And the general plan shows this is
it's regional commercial.
Regional commercial.
This is
Which
what-
And so I
defaults to
just want the
central
area
Yeah.
from the general plan that looks like regional commercial
This is a general
to
plan.
become
This
city
is what he wants
commercial.
to move it to,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
to change the zoning from R2
They're
to
willing to chop this
commercial,
off right
whatever
here.
that is.
Yeah, would you be able to put
To change
put
that to
up
match
the
that.
actual
what
zoning
Yeah.
map so we can look
Yeah.
at where that R2 zone falls?
Right now.
City commercial comes in.
So that's the R2 zone right here.
Cut it off on
So
that.
they don't
So that
close- clear
big
down the
strip
road.
is all R2.
Right now, it's R2 along that cul-de-sac. right
Correct.
there. And that's what's in question, isn't it?
Well,
Well, I don't know.
There-
We'll
there's-
find out. We'll find out.
I want to go back to that.
Your box is still
I mean, we
in the
looked at
box.
this.
Still.
So, can I say something?
Oh yeah.
So, okay, Kip brought up the present zoning this is central commercial, and then this is R2, all this. The general plan shows this being central commercial and this being regional commercial. It's actually says regional and highway or something, but, okay, so because there's no regional commercial zone, it defaults to central commercial.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
so this would become central commercial right here with this, and the R2 would stay down here. So it would be an extension of commercial south.
Ask a question. Where on 860 West, do the homes come down to here? Is this the individual lots? Do the homes come to
There's
there?
homes all down there.
There's,
But is this where they end?
yes, yes, it is.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Would it be possible? Trudy Savage. The old, just because the plan, somebody changed the plan without any of us having any input whatsoever in it. About, I think they said 2008. I don't know for sure when that was, but none of us had any input into that to make a general plan. But it is still zoned R2. And that's what we want to stay. We want it to stay zoned R2 in that little place.
All right,
It-
one correction I want
Okay,
to make.
please.
Is so one of the council people had researched this, not me personally, but
Uh-huh.
I was told that when that was, there are several of your neighbors that are on record of coming in and being at every meeting that they have on it. So
Okay,
that,
we
so
didn't, no one
you
was,
may not have,
we weren't given papers out and said,
no,
please
they were at the
come.
meeting, like 4 meetings.
but
they were
but
here.
we were never given the opportunity to be told that's what they were planning.
That's
to
They
what
do.
were at the meetings.
Yeah,
is
Those
what-
people might have been, but we weren't handed a letter like
Well,
this time we were sent a letter
Well,
out saying they were
in
considering
2000.
changing it.
Well, that's because it's an actual zone change.
Okay. All
So
right.
that's the difference. But there are several of your neighbors that are on record that come and participated in the meeting, not just attended, participated. So,
Okay.
And
so
that
let's
was
just
in-
make it like completely.
Okay, I'll update you. That was in 2003.
Okay.
And there was a load of you that are in the room that were in the meeting, and a lot of you spoke in the meetings. You had 4 opportunities to address it. First off, there was the planning commission meeting, which was attended by all of you. And then the next meeting, they were split up back in those days. The next meeting was when they voted on it at the planning commission. I saw the same names on the agendas and the same speakers. Then it went to the city council, like, the system,
Mhm.
just like you've seen the system. The same ones were at the city council work meeting, and the same citizens were at the city council voting meeting when the zone change was done to central commercial from highway service. So you were aware
True,
of that.
but that section is still zoned
It's still
R2.
R2.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
we're not
is.
questioning that.
Yeah, I'm
yes.
talking
Yeah.
about the other.
Oh, okay.
other
I
portion
understand
that
what you're saying.
that
Yeah.
you didn't
Yeah,
know about
But
any
the
of it.
part that little red triangle you're setting there,
Right.
that is still
That was-
R2.
Yeah, that was never changed.
And I feel like it should stay R2. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Well, I would like to make a motion that we would approve that, but move that line. I went up there, I've walked the property, I've looked at it. I think that's a little bit too intrusive into the neighborhoods. This piece right here goes right into the neighborhoods and butts up in this Mountain View, Desert Pines. And also on these homes that go down 860 West. I would think if we did, there's an old fence line that goes through the back of some of these properties. I don't know if staff could work, but I think it needs to be moved up where it's not so intrusive and leave this R2 where it can be developed as residential. So,
Yeah, that's what we came up with.
I have a question about which
Will you state
build.
your name?
Oh, Gail Crawford. Sorry. My house is, if you can see the map, I live right there. So this is across the street from me, you know, within. Is this building right here the old RNS upholstery building? Is it, or is it this building? I can't tell
I
where.
think this is the thrift store and this is the warehouse.
I think that
Okay.
is the upholstery.
The other
Is
one-
this one right there? Okay.
That's the red
Kind of the
building,
red
like we call it
Okay.
the red building.
I can't quote you how many neighbors I'm representing, but our proposal is that you draw the line right there, right there.
Well, you gotta.
All, this whole piece right here can be developed R2, but you're only raising the line to about right here, and we're saying we want it, if we could make a proposal, but I don't think we can. I think it has to come from the city council.
I don't know where
To draw the
that's
line-
why I'm saying there's some kind of a
I know.
fence line that goes
Right,
goes
right behind that building. So our proposal is to move this bottom line up to right there. That's so much less intrusive on all of these homes right here and all of these homes right here. You know, I'm clear over here, but these guys they could smell it. It's that close to them. And so if you could draw the line right there, and I don't know the numbers or anything, but that's what the neighborhood is proposing or requesting, or to just turn the whole thing down. That's the other option.
I have a question too about what commercial.
You still have to state your name.
Okay, Trudy Savage. The part that he's asking to be to commercial, how large of a building can be built on that commercial? Is it 5 stories? Is it 2 stories? Is it 1 story? Is it, I don't know what it is. How large how high of a building can be built on that?
Well, I think that's back to the residential argument. I think that's restricted by fire code.
Well, that's if it's still residential, but if it changes to commercial, what is the restriction of the height of a building?
Well, that's fire code is going to restrict that.
They still, where in the other ones, we said they still have to conform with the building and fire codes. It would depend on what they're building, how they're building it, all of that would determine a lot of those based on the fire
lot
codes
size,
and buildings and all of
everything.
that.
So once again, I agree with Terry. I think that line should be exactly where you had your point there, Terry, just a few minutes ago. Would you point there again? I think that should stay residential where it is until that fence line that's right along there. And that would include all of the people that are still residential there. They wouldn't be a part of that commercial. Thank you.
Okay, does the council have any other questions?
Just Kit, would he be able to access the property by opening up Desert Pines if he had it R2 from that end as well?
Well, we'd have to look at the ownership on that cul-de-sac and see if there's a private owner between him and his property, or between the cul-de-sac and his property.
I think he owns right up
Yeah, it
to
goes
the
right up to the
cul-de-sac. Yeah,
Right on
yeah.
the cul-de-sac.
That's why I was asking that question, because I'm thinking if that gets chopped too much down there, you won't have enough access off of Mountain View Drive, depending on, if you were to do an R2 is what I'm getting at. Be landlocked because you have to have a minimum frontage in that circle where the road bends, where I sat and looked today, and I'm not sure. There's
Well,
probably
you
enough
got,
room
you got to
to
remember
access
that
it.
that frontage is measured at the setback. It's not measured around the curb.
Well, yeah, but still, I'm talking about even,
that enlarges. the
yeah,
setback.
access from the street though is tight. But anyway, I just want to bring that up for him. But
Yeah, Grant Carter again. I just have one quick question. So if you're going to leave this R2, what is the purpose in having a general plan? So I come in and buy some property and the general plan shows it's going to be regional commercial. And now you're telling me it's going to stay
just like
R2.
we've talked about the student housing zone. That's like our best forecast is where we want the city to go. And at that point, someone included that, but the underlying fact is it's zoned R2. And so it needs to go through the process. It's not an automatic just because
No,
it's in
I'm
the,
not saying
yeah.
that, but why would you plan for this to be commercial if that was never going to be considered?
I don't know that we weren't ever going to consider it. I wasn't involved when that was made, but I would say it was considered at the point that it was done, but we've got a lot of public input here that, would prefer that not to happen. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think he makes a valid point.
So the council that's talking amongst themselves, will you talk in a microphone?
That last point was very well taken. We have a master plan for a purpose, and people buy and plan to utilize property in accordance with that plan. So,
but you also have owners of property that already own their land
that's right.
too. That we
That's
can't-
right. And I will tell you just what I told the Planning Commission. These folks are concerned about value of their property. The business owner is we don't want to put him in a position where he has zero value to his property. He has the right to develop that property. And so you folks have to.
I want someone once again to really show me the full extent of the property we're talking about, because there's so many lines, the lines are wrong, and
It's a
Ignore the
parallelogram.
red box.
ignore the red box.
It's a parallelogram. Okay.
So hold on, we're going to get rid of the red box.
Okay.
Yeah, there we
Okay.
go.
There.
It's a parallelogram that
Goes clear down to the bottom there by,
goes,
Yeah, clear
it
down
goes
to
from
the
here
point.
to here, all the way up to there and back.
back to where? Back to where?
Back to here.
Gotcha. But I mean, straight up that line.
Straight up that line.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Like I said, it's a
there-
parallelogram
It's not the
if you ignore
property
all
to the
colors
west.
and
It's
everything
not
else.
the property to the west. It's, okay, got it. Got it. I'm with you.
So we're talking about the purple box,
Mhm.
which is currently R2,
Mm-hmm.
making that purple.
Mm-hmm.
Trudy Savage again.
Okay.
I have a question. When you buy a piece of property, don't you buy the property knowing what it's zoned already, not what you hope it to be zoned or to change it? I would buy, if I were going to buy a piece of property, I would find out what it was zoned before I thought, oh, I'm going to go buy that property and build me a house on there. I would find out what that was zoned before I tried to make a change. It was zoned R2, so that's just my thought on that.
I did do diligence on this. And
Will you
and
state your name?
Grant
Even
Carter again,
thank
I'm
you.
sorry. I did do due diligence on this and came in and talked to, I don't know whether some of the engineering department, at least my broker did, to see if there were possibilities of zone changes. And that's when it appeared that most of this could be rezoned to city commercial. And that was one of the premises for buying the property. I need more than what that little CC is to do what I would like to do with the property. There's also a building sitting in the middle of the R2 grounds. So something has to be done to fix this. And as far as I'm concerned, it should be in accordance with the general plan. That would be the most, the fairest outcome. I'm already giving up. I would like the whole thing zoned commercial, clear back to that point. And I'm certainly willing to work with the neighbors and make them happy. Whatever I build there isn't going to be more than 2 stories tall. I can tell you that right now. And, it'll be very tastefully done, and there's not going to be big trucks going down the roads, and it's not going to affect the kids getting on the bus and going to school. It'll be a very nice project when it's done. So as far as I'm concerned, it's one of those situations where it certainly appeared to me when I did the due diligence and it was reported to me that this could be, at least a lot of it could be zoned commercial and perhaps the whole part. And that's what I went in with when I bought it. I did know it was R2 at the time, but there was certainly indications that it would be, it was able to be changed to a commercial zone, at least the majority of the property.
Mr. Carter, could I ask you a question, please? The bottom half of this that would still remain R2 if this were to be changed. Would you have interest or plans in to develop that as R2, or
Yes,
would you?
I would.
Okay.
I would probably put it. In fact, I talked to an architect today about putting some duplexes back there or something in that order. Now, this
Okay.
would be a nice project. I think it'd be a nice thing for the neighbors. I certainly it's not going to decrease their property value. And I certainly will bring whatever I plan to the. I'm happy to bring it back to the council, whatever you'd like me to do to
Sure.
make sure it's in accordance with something that looks very nice and makes the neighborhood look nice.
Okay. Thank you.
If I remember correctly, when the original one came through Planning Commission, it was to go all the way down to the point.
No, it was not.
Was it not?
No, it
And
was
then
not.
they
The
moved
motion
it up.
made in planning commission.
Yeah, no, the motion made, but the original request was that.
No, it was.
And then
Was
after
to do that whole
comments,
thing.
and then it came
And
back.
planning commission, you'll recall, we just did what was be done in accordance with the master
Mhm.
plan and approved it and gave a recommendation to council
Yes.
in that context.
So that.
So
was-
that's where we were.
So does council have any more, now that we've got the box fixed and that, are there more questions from council or comments?
Is there any way we could change it and do partly what you're saying, Terry, only bring it back down to where those properties are instead of clear down? There's still two houses that are, now you're going to change them and put them into the commercial thing. Could we bring it up?
But will you say your name again really quick?
Yes, Trudy Savage.
Yeah.
I am so sorry, Miley.
Those are decisions for the,
Mrs. Savage, with all due respect, that's not our decision to make. That's between the property owner and this council and what we vote for. That's his property to decide where he wants to draw the line.
Right, but what I'm saying is that you make the decision where you change the zone. Is that not correct?
We vote on it based on what he's applying for, up or down. Am I correct?
I think that you can do anything you want to do. That's your choice.
Well, I have a hard time dictating somebody else's property, what they can do with it. I mean,
Well, you're doing that to us.
so. Are there? Yes, do you have a question?
I have one for Tyler. With a master plan in place, I just want to know the legal ramifications to approving something other than what was on the master plan.
So I read into a couple cases over the past week.
Yeah.
There was a case in Draper that was dealing with Harmons, trying to rezone some property, going through a similar dispute with some of the neighbors. Essentially what the court said is there needs to be a reason for this other than purely public clamor. So if Ms. Hartley talked about how the intrusiveness of this going into that neighborhood, well, that's a reason other than public clamor. My advice would be whatever decision is made, if it's voted down, there be a reason other than public clamor put on the record.
There we go. Boxes, they're fixed.
Love it. Well, go ahead, sir.
Shane Presswich, I had one quick question. It seems to me like the zoning is what determines what you can build. In other words, zoning is the tool to steer growth. And it seems like we're all saying, oh, well, we have to conform to the master plan. Well, which tool is trumps? What are we looking at?
The one is a plan, the other one is what can be done.
But when you look at it
Does
from
one
Mr.
trump the
Carter's
other, like-
perspective,
One doesn't-
they're one and the same.
one trumps the
And
other.
I had one more question.
So many ramifications these days.
Right now?
The general plan lists this as what was it called? And I was wondering what the rule is that says that it automatically reverts to central commercial. Why doesn't it, if we don't have that zone that the master plan is calling for, why doesn't it revert to R2? Is there
Yeah, I
a
think it was
rule
regional.
there?
I think it was regional commercial that they
And you just
fell
go
to general.
You just
And
go
we
to the
don't
closest.
have a regional commercial zone, right?
Go to the closest land use that it.
Neither
It's
one
closest to that.
trumps the other. They're just different tools.
I am prepared to make a motion,
Yes.
and we'll see if it has any legs. I would like to propose that we consider.
Terry, did you actually make an official
Oh, I'm
motion?
sorry.
I did.
Oh, I didn't.
If you want, I'll withdraw it and see what he has. to
No,
say.
we
Can you
didn't-
withdraw it?
Sorry.
I didn't hear you say, what was your motion? I'm sorry.
What was your motion?
I didn't know that it was an official motion. I just thought we were in discussion mode.
It was kind of both. So that's why I say, let me just withdraw it after we've had this discussion
Okay.
and then go forward.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we consider moving the line of consideration up to, and I don't know what this address is. I'm going to point straight across here.
Yes.
But wait, let me finish. From the current R2 to the general commercial as per the general, and modify that in accordance, modify the general plan as well. If that makes sense, the master plan. I'm making a motion to change the line from where it's currently being proposed up to properties. I'm sorry, I don't know what that address is.
I'll second that.
And to rezone the property to the
To-
west of your new line to central commercial?
That is correct.
And leave the other part
As R2.
R2.
That is correct. That is my proposal.
Okay,
That's
so
my
there was a
motion.
motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hartley.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes 3-2. All right. Okay, item number 13.
Maybe could you, well, we could do this after. Could you show me the specific line you want? I got the addresses on there. So
To 1117 south, yeah.
So it's on the
want it
which
on that
Border
line?
of,
The northeast corner.
Mr.
of
Phillips,
11.
could you please point to the line again?
Yeah, now the addresses are up
yeah.
11, would you like me to say 1117 south
What is that street?
to the,
to whatever that
Well, the
street
north-
is? I
well,
don't know.
just come up and point to it now that they have the addresses up so Kit can.
Northeast corner of that one.
Straight across.
Okay. So now we'll move on to item number 13. Consider an ordinance. Are we good? Creating
That's
no
nice.
parking zones as following. On the south side of Royal Hunt Drive from 1850 west to 2200 west. On the north side of Royal Hunt Drive from the east entrance of the Aquatic Center parking lot extending 220 feet to the east. And yeah, that was all.
Just like that. Yeah. That'll keep my neighbor from.
Are
parking
there
those big
comments or questions related to these?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, and now we'll move on to our Irma presentation.
Usually.
I have to say, this has been very entertaining for me. I'm Paul Johnson. I'm the CEO of Utah Risk Management Mutual Association. We are your liability insurers. When you have claims and lawsuits against the city, we're the ones who step in and take that for you. But we are not a typical insurance program. So especially when we have new council members, but even as a refresher for those of you who have been here a few years, we like to tell you how we work with our cities. You are basically self-insured. What that does is it gives you control. In other words, when we have a lawsuit or a claim, we're going to ask, these two gentlemen right here, well, these two gentlemen and one lady, which attorney they want to hire. A regular insurance company does not give you that luxury. They tell you who's going to defend you and how they're going to defend you. And with Irma, since you own it, it's a pool of 16 cities, some large, some little, and they pooled their resources. And we want the cities to make the calls. Paul sits on our board of directors. And so Cedar City actually has a voice in what coverage we have, what policies we have. And we want to make sure that the cities are in control. And so the benefit is, for example, if you get a lawsuit and you don't want to settle it because it's a matter of principle for you, you want to take it to the mat, you want to go to trial, it's your call. It's not ours. And so we will allow that, even if it means that some of our money, because I'll explain how the finances work, but some of our money could be at risk. We currently have a case right now with one of our larger cities. It's a police case. There was a homicide, and it came out of a criminal case, but they're being sued for I think $6 million. And they said, this individual cannot win this case. We have to take it to trial. He should not receive any money. This is a matter of principle. And so we're spending a lot of money on the defense. In fact, the attorney that we hired, that the city requested that we hire, we checked him out. Very good attorney, top-notch litigator. His budget for the case is $630,000 to take it through trial. That's no small chunk of change. We're doing it. We're doing it. Now, the way the finances work, you're self-insured, but we pay everything up front. And then you pay back 20% a year. So over 5 years, interest-free, you pay back your losses. That's designed so that you don't have a huge hit in 1 year to your budget. Being cities and city representatives, and I'm a former city employee, we understand the budgeting process, and we understand you can't take $1 million hit in a budget in a budget year. You can even over a couple of years, you can't. So our system is designed to even that out. So you pay it back over 5 years, but your single biggest loss is capped at 25% of your premium. In other words, if you have $1 million lawsuit, and normally then you would be paying $200,000 a year. But if that's your biggest loss and your yearly installment of $200,000 is bigger than 1/4 of your premium, it's capped at 1/4 and we pay the rest. Your cap is at $19,000. So in that scenario of a $1 million judgment or cost, you would pay over 5 years $97,000 of the $1 million. That's $19,408 a year. Irma would pay $620,000 and $60 from our reserves. And then we have reinsurance that kicks in at $717,000. That happens to be the state law tort cap that you can sue a city for. And that kicks in. So they'd pay $282,000. Irma would pay $620,000 and Cedar City would pay $97,000 over 5 years. Again, no interest. So it's designed so you can budget for that in your budget and it doesn't kill you. So basically you're self-insured, but you have a huge safety net that's there. And then the coverage goes up to $6 million. That's per occurrence. So you could have 4 different lawsuits and the coverage is $6 million on each one of those. In order to protect our reserves and the city's pool of money, we're really adamant about creating a risk-averse environment in the city, about risk management. We want our cities to develop a culture of risk management. In other words, oh, insurance will take care of it. We don't like that. We don't like that. We want your employees to drive very carefully because they're trying to avoid liability. So we want them trained in distracted driving. We want them trained in defensive driving. And we want them trained every year in that. We want them trained every year in sexual harassment and police liability. Those are they're not the most common case that we get, but they're the most expensive ones. And so we want your police officers trained every year in police liability. A couple of ways that we provide the training, and this is at no cost. This is part of your premium. We have an online training program where an employee can individually log on and take a 35 to 45-minute module on up to 75 different topics. The ones I've mentioned are included in those, but there's land use topics, there's supervisory skill topics, or you could have an entire group of employees log in and have it on the screen and I'll watch it at once. Otherwise, they can do it individually on their own computers and at their leisure. The second way we do it is for certain topics, we'll just come here to Cedar City. We don't make you go anywhere else, your employees to go anywhere else. We'll come here to Cedar City and provide the training. We have, over the last year or two, done training on sexual harassment here, and we've done several different sessions so that you can get all your employees through it. We've done police liability, we've done supervisory liability, distracted driving, land use. We've done land use liability. And so those are trainings that if you want us to come do it, we'll just come do it. And we'll do as many sessions as you need. So you don't have to pay your employees overtime. You don't have to get them all in the same room. We'll do different sessions for them. Another thing that we'll do is if we don't have the expertise in-house, we have 4 employees. If we don't have the expertise in-house to provide a certain topic, we'll bring somebody in. We'll get an attorney if it's a liability issue, and we'll bring them in to do the training at our cost. Sometimes we have regional training. For example, we did one. We usually have them at Cedar City, Utah County, usually Orem. They're one of our cities. Salt Lake City or Salt Lake County. We have West Valley, South Jordan, and Draper, and then one up north in Ogden for our northern cities. For example, we did recently one on officer-involved shootings. That's a big topic right now. It's huge exposure, liability-wise, for our police officers in our cities. And so we hired an attorney who's an expert in officer-involved shootings, defending cities and officers in that. And she came and did 4 different sessions for us. In addition to the training, we inspect your city twice a year. We come down in the fall and we walk your sidewalks. Not everyone, obviously, but we take random sidewalks. We look at your water meter lids to see if they're fastened correctly. We go in your parks and we look to see if you have hazards that would cause liability. We look at your policies. We look at your police pursuit policy, your use of force policy, to make sure that they're consistent with current law. And so then in the fall, we will do a write-up for you, and you should get the write-up with a list of the things that need to be done. In the spring, we come back and see how you did. Again, if there's a problem that's going to really hit your budget to fix, for example, you have to do new bleachers or something because you don't have the proper railings on them according to current standards, we'll give you time to do it. You'll still get credit if you have a plan to do it. We're not here to punish the cities. We're here to really help you reduce liability, reduce accidents, and make a safer environment for your citizens. The claims adjuster that we use is Libby Lowther, and she's generally regarded as the most expert in the state. cities are clamoring to have her, and she does all our claims. And she will come here to Cedar City. You don't have to deal with an adjuster who's in Chicago, like a regular insurance company. Our adjuster will come right here. So that's how we work. Do you have any questions?
Got two more things to add. Coverage issues. We've had a couple of coverage issues peculiar to us over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. One was the rail spur, and the other is our bus system. Irma's coverage policy excluded both originally. When we got our rail spur, we went back to the Irma board and asked if they could extend their umbrella over our rail spur, and it was done without an increase to our premiums at all. When we had our bus system audited and they said you need to get different liability insurance, we went to Irma and told them we have a bus system, and at first they thought it was UTA, and then we explained it was really small buses. And they adjusted
Front runner doesn't come down this far.
Yeah, no front runner, no UTA. They again, they extended their umbrella to cover us without dinging us in the premium area. So from that aspect, they've been very willing to work and shape their coverage to help their clients.
And that's one of the reasons we have a representative from each city on the board of directors. I work for the board of directors, so he's my boss. It's hard, but we deal with it. We're here for the cities. And so the other city representatives will look at it and they say, well, we might want to do something like that ourselves. It doesn't expose us very much. And so let's change the coverage documents. So that's what happened. That just happened this past year, right?
The buses was this past year. The rail spur
was before I worked for Irma.
Yeah.
Okay. So at any rate, you own Irma. You have a seat at the table, and we want to help you as much as we can to create this culture and atmosphere in your city of risk avoidance. So that's what we're about.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, can we get?
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. It drowns me. I do have one.
You do have.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to use it for. That's exactly what I'm going to use it for. That's good. How are you?
You and I kind of initiated this.
Name sounds familiar.
I'm not sure that
That's
because maybe
Hey, thank you.
I was just communicating, so I just a couple of them and say, hey.
Yeah, for the actual zone piece. Yeah, because we'll have that other information on the enforcement with the apartment
all of a sudden it's like,
application.
this room is open.
Kind of see maybe in Tyler. Or do you think we need especially questions come up about the enforcement?
What's easiest for you?
Well, you think about most people. I can reach out to a couple of neighbors.
5:30 is fine.
We're grateful for it at some point. Hopefully not. But
I'm the protection, I'm on the end.
Part of the ordinance, yeah.
kept picking up chairs.
So, hey.
So are you showing him our armor here?
Yeah, we're talking, talk to your neighbors and however many of them want to come.
Somebody on the planning commission?
It probably won't be a very productive meeting. The only thing we get is, but the only thing we get is, we don't want X. We already know that, right? We already know. We want a discussion of, okay, we know you guys don't like X, Y, and Z, so now what?
I don't know if I'm fulfilled by what happened.
This is the solution. This is your.
And then you can take it back and.
Because if all you guys do is come in and tell us we don't like stuff, we already know that. We got it. We heard it last week.
I think we keep it.
And at the planning commission, we understand.
I don't think so. I went up there.
We're trying to forge a way forward.
I think that whoever wrote that master plan, they dove
And then your explanation again.
And it dives clear back into that.
I think that went
along the way because.
That's
Well,
what
it's
we-
hard
we sneaked up. We got ready for parks.
We did do the general land
In
use
planning
first, and then switched to
So that would be really helpful.
I just,
I mean, with those he's got every right.
And that's why they say they're but one doesn't trump the other.
No, and that's fine. That's fine. but
Parking is
I-
right here, but
I just- I